Okay, so you need an email list, right? It's the one way that we can ensure that our messages get in front of the people in our audience. We can't ensure that on social media. We can't ensure that on billboards and newspapers, but we can ensure that in email marketing. So that's why it's so important to have an email list. So there are 4 things that you need to start an email list. And the first thing is you need something to entice them, something to lure them in. We call them lead magnets for a very good reason. They are free items, free downloads, free experiences that we provide to our potential audience in exchange for their email address, right? So think about it. Your email address is some pretty personal information, right? Now, of course, a lot of people don't necessarily use their primary email address, your personal email address, for things like marketing emails, but in general, it's a way that people know that they can communicate with us directly. So your email address is valuable, personally identifiable information for you, right? So we have to take that into consideration when we're building a lead magnet, because we want to provide a lead magnet that is going to be really, really valuable. So there's a lot of stuff out there that, well, it just isn't valuable. It may be a lead magnet, but it may not be an equal tit for tat sort of exchange for an email address. So when you're creating your lead magnet, and we're going to talk about what those lead magnets can be in a minute, think about one problem that your audience is having, just one problem, and not like a huge problem, like a smallish problem, and how you can solve that problem. So let's say that you're a writer like me, a copywriter, and one of the big issues that people come to me with is they tell themselves that they don't have any idea what to write about in their emails, right? And I totally get it. I struggle with that too, right? And I've got videos about that now because it's a problem. But what could I provide to them that would remove that roadblock, that mental block that they have towards or against creating emails, right? So if they are saying that their problem is they don't know what to write, what if I gave them a list of ideas on what to write, topics that they could write on, sort of like prompts, right? So the 5 key things you need to know about X in year, right? Those are really pretty evergreen sort of prompts, but even just having those ideas there can make a huge difference, right? So one of my lead magnets includes a list of 52 prompts. So an entire year's worth of email topics for you to use, right? So if that's a big issue for you, and I say, hey, I've got this awesome list of email prompts, you're going to be like, oh, heck yeah, here's my email address, give me the thing, because that's solving a problem, right? Now, a lot of people think lead magnet or freebie, a lot of people call them a freebie, they think that they have to be like a PDF, like a digital product, right? So like a checklist or an ebook or a guide of some sort, right? And those are great. I love using those as lead magnets. But there are a lot of other lead magnet ideas out there. You could do a free video series. You could do a webinar is technically a lead magnet, right? A workshop, a free master class is a lead magnet. Other things you could use as lead magnets are things like quizzes. You know, the internet loves them some quizzes. So create a quiz and then collect their email address so you can send them the results. Those can work great. Other ideas, things like free summits that they can attend, even a newsletter. I've seen people with good results offer on their website, subscribe to my newsletter, right? And that newsletter is the promise that you're going to deliver something to them every week. And that becomes that lead magnet, that thing that attracts the person that is coming to you and has a problem that you can help them solve, right? So think about the problem that you can help them solve quickly, easily, not, world hunger, but, how to get, a meal today. And make a lead magnet from that in whatever format makes sense for you. So that is going to be the thing that attracts your audience, the thing that entices your audience, right? But once we've enticed that audience, what do we do with those emails? Where are we going to put them? Where do we store them so that we can then use them to communicate with our audience? Well, technically, there are, some manual ways you could do it. You could keep a notebook, of all your email addresses. You could create within your personal email, you could create a contact list, or something like that within Gmail or whatever you use. But the easiest way is going to be to use an email service provider. And there are a ton of them out there. And I've got other videos on the best ones out there. I'm a little bit biased, but hey, who isn't when it comes to email service providers? We all have our favorites. But what an email service provider will allow you to do is a number of things, right? One, it's going to store the emails from your list. Two, it's going to allow you to email them. And three, and this is something that people don't always associate with email service providers, it can create or allow you to create a form through which you can collect those emails, right? And those first names. Always get first names when you're collecting emails for an opt-in for a lead magnet. And I'll tell you why in a different video. But make sure that when you are choosing an email service provider, it's one that allows you to create a lot of people will call them landing pages. And literally it is a page on which you land. You put in your email address and your name and you hit submit, and then you receive whatever that lead magnet is, right? But you need that form. And there are a lot of different ways. If you're a WordPress person, you can create that form on your website. That's totally fine. You can create it in a funnel software. You can create it in a lot of different applications. But the point is, it needs to be funneling those emails into your email service provider so you can then communicate with those people later, okay? So we have to entice them, but then we have to capture their data. And that's one of those things that people don't always think about. So make sure that you have a plan for capturing their data. My favorite email service providers are ActiveCampaign, and in terms of like a paid provider, and MailerLite is my favorite free provider. I'll say this, I like MailChimp from an interface perspective, from a user experience perspective. I like working in MailChimp. What I don't like is none of my emails can get out of the promotions folder and into the inbox with MailChimp. So that's why I don't recommend MailChimp to my customers. I do recommend MailerLite because I have better results with MailerLite and email deliverability. So if you're looking for a free option, check out MailerLite for sure. Now, once we have captured their information, we've got to give them the thing that we promised them, right? So most likely, if it's some sort of digital product, you're going to email them. Hey, you have their email address. Now's the time to email them, right? So you're going to email them and you're going to deliver the link to that product or to that video series or whatever it is, right? Maybe it's information on how to register or how to access summit recordings or whatever, right? You're going to have to deliver that. And that's, again, where your email service provider comes in, right? Technically, you could manage that process manually. And every time somebody sends you an email or maybe like DMs you with their email, you could send them the lead magnet, but please don't do that. That's really hard. And there's some great free and very low cost options for email service providers that you can use. Okay. So promise me you won't do this manually. Okay, thanks. All right. So we need to deliver that thing, right? And that's one of the reasons that your lead magnet needs to be something that you create once and can give to people over and over, right? So a bad lead magnet idea, or at least in my opinion, a bad lead magnet idea is like a free 15-minute consultation call. That's a lot of work for you. And there's only one of you. So that's probably not something that you're going to be able to sustain to grow your list to the size that you probably want to grow your list, right? Imagine having 100 people sign up on your list this week and you're like, yay, except that now you have 100 15-minute phone calls that you have to do. That's not cool, right? So we want to be able to deliver this thing multiple times without, creating something new every single time, right? So we will store that document. Let's say it's a document, let's say it's a PDF. We'll store it somewhere on like Google Drive. You can store in some email service providers, you can store documents within them, and the link will be within the provider. Especially a lot of all-in-one solutions like Kartra and Kajabi and Ontraport have that option. You could, if it's a video, you could put it on YouTube and you could unlist it so that people wouldn't find it on your channel. They would have to have that link to go to it. Same thing you could do with Vimeo. You could create a page on your website that is has a video embedded, and you just don't show that in your navigation, and you don't make it searchable and that kind of thing. But you've got to get them the information. One thing I will say is that I see people who they'll have their opt-in page, and you'll put in your email address and your name, and then they'll take you to the thank you page, and that has the download on it, or that has the video on it, or whatever. That's great. That's immediate gratification, right? And we like that. But I always make sure I send them an email as well, because once they close out of that tab, that opportunity is gone. It can't get it back, right? And we want them to be able to go back to our lead magnet as often as they want, right? So always send them an email with the link to your item or your video series or whatever, as well as displaying it on your thank you page if you so desire. Now, finally, we've delivered this thing to them, right? And it's like we've gone on a first date. Well, if we really like this person, right? And we want them to like us. So we need to continue to nurture this new budding relationship. And how do we do that? Well, we do it with email marketing, right? With email marketing, one of the things that we want to do is establish and then grow that know, like, and trust factor. Marketers talk about that all the time. Sometimes you hear it called the KLT or LKT. But your know, like, and trust factor is going to give you that sense of reliability, of authority, of personality. It gives them a chance to see really who you are, so they can decide if they want to do business with you, right? So it's really important in your nurture sequence to show that personality, to share valuable information, things that you have learned, other opportunities like a free masterclass or something that you might have for them. Continue to solve their problems, and you'll have a customer for life. And that's really what we want, right? Like, we want somebody who is going to, every time we offer a new service, or every time we offer a new like digital product or a course, they're right there with their credit cards, right? Here we go. Yes, I know this is going to be amazing. And so here you go. I don't even care what it costs. I don't care what it's called, right? That's the goal. And that happens through that nurture sequence. Now, one thing that people get confused on, and I totally get this, is a nurture sequence versus those like emails that you send to them every week or every 2 weeks or whatever your schedule is, right? Those are going to be a little bit different. And we'll talk about those in another video. But this nurture sequence is going to be a particular number of emails long, whatever you decide is comfortable. I typically do 5, including the delivery email. But it's all going to be automated, right? And again, this is where that email service provider comes in. So once they get that email, that initial delivery email with their download in it, then the next day, or maybe the day after, you're going to have that automation set up to send them the second email. And then another day or 2 will pass, and then the third, and then the fourth, and then the fifth, right? And then that's usually after that nurture sequence is when I drop them into my primary list of people who get my weekly emails, right? So your weekly emails are different than this nurture sequence, because every sequence has to have some sort of goal. So a sales sequence is going to have the goal of making the sale, right? A book a call sequence has a goal of booking a call. So your nurture sequence may have a goal of getting them to join your Facebook group, right? Or maybe it is to book a call, which is a perfectly fine call to action at the end of your nurture sequence. Maybe it's to buy one of your low ticket products. Maybe it's to attend a masterclass. There are a lot of different things that you can use as your call to action for your nurture sequence, but you need to have one. You don't need to introduce it until the last email or two, but you need to have a purpose and something that you're calling them to do at the end of that sequence. Okay, so let's go over those. Number one, to building an email list, you've got to have something to entice them, some sort of lead magnet, freebie, opt-in. You'll hear it called a lot of different things, but what it is something that solves a problem for your ideal customer, right? And if they can implement that and see their problem solved, like you're a hero in their book, right? So that's going to be awesome. Number two, you've got to have a way to capture that information when they give you their email address and their name. So some sort of landing page software, it could be in something like ClickFunnels or FGFunnels or Lead Pages, something like that. It could be in Kartra or Kajabi, or it could be within your email service provider software. Most of them have some sort of landing page functionality that probably not fancy, but you can at least put your logo up there and, you know, and put the little form in there so you can capture their name and email. And the nice thing about that is it goes straight into your email list exactly where you tell it to go. So once we've captured that information, we've got to deliver that lead magnet to them, usually through email. I always deliver through email, even if I do something additional, like on a thank you page. So we've got to have something to deliver that email. And then we've got to nurture them. We've got to start building that relationship. We've got to send them flowers. We've got to share a mixtape, right? I don't think people still do mixtapes. We got to share a Spotify playlist. But anything that can help them get to know you, get to know your business, get to know what you do, so that they feel more connected to you, right? So you've got to have that nurture sequence, and it has to be automated or you're going to drive yourself crazy, right? Let's not do that. All right. So those are your 4 steps to building an email list. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, and that's totally normal to be overwhelmed. We'll dig more into all of these at some point in the next few weeks, but just know that starting your email list does not have to be expensive, because you can do it with free software. It doesn't have to be overwhelming, because when you break it down into the 4 steps, it's really not, it may not be simple. Wait, it may not be easy, but it's simple. Yeah, there we go. It's simple. It may not be easy, but it's simple. And and it doesn't have to be this burden that you're carrying around going, oh, I know I need to start my email list. Oh, if I had an email list, I could send this to them. Oh, whatever, you know? So if you haven't started your email list, do it. Follow these steps. I'll put some links in the description on for some different email service providers that I like, that I use all the time. And just start collecting those email addresses. You will be so glad next week, next month, next year that you did. All right, y'all, I'm out of here. See you next time.